That's really heavy. You have to have lots of muscles to hold this thing. My name is Rosalinda Looking. I'm the Assiniboine Sioux from the Fort Pitt Indian Reservation. It's an honor to be asked to talk. You know, it's always an honor to stand in front of all my relatives that are here today. And we are supporting the march that is going on in Washington, D.C. today. And there were so many people there that showed up, so many indigenous people, so many nations that showed up to support the cause. Because it's not just our cause, it affects all of us. You know, I grew up along the Missouri River. My res is right by my res. And I never made it to Standing Rock. And sometimes I feel like I see some faces here that have been there and that have pretty much stood at the front lines and that have given up. Basically, we're going to give up their lives to support this, what they believe in. You know, but I did the best that I could, you know, in the city here since it started. I reached out to all of you to help us to get donations and send caravans over there to help, you know, for people that wanted to go and support. And so I stayed behind and did that. And besides, I said I grew up in that cold weather. I don't want to go back to it. I mean, it was really, really, really cold when I was young. You know, I wanted to share a little bit about what I went through as a young girl. You know, just to touch on some of the things where Native people feel that oppression and the genocide and the racism, and to walk through forgiveness is really hard. You know, I went through alcohol and drugs, and I got sober, then I had to walk through the forgiveness part. It was really hard for me. But one of the things that I wrote a lot of things down on paper. And when I grew up, you know, when I was young, I think I was like 8 years old, and we used to have to wear dresses to school. And we didn't live very far from the school, but it was still cold. When you walk in that cold, and you can ask some of these water protectors that have been out there in that cold weather, it stings every part of your body. And we had to wear dresses. And when we get to the school, me and all of our relatives that lived on the hill, we called it the hill. That's where most of the Native people live. And our neighbors. We get to the door, right? We get to the door, you know, us Native kids had to stand outside until the bell rang. And the other nations stood inside. And that was my first introduction to feeling like, what's the matter with me? I started to become ashamed of being brown. I used to wonder why, if I was a different color, would I be treated differently? You know, and that was just my introduction. Plus there was alcohol, and not so much drugs, but a lot of alcoholism when I was growing up in my family. And that added to that. You know, and it just really, when Standing Rock started, and I started to really do a lot of research on how our people were treated. I cried a lot this last year. I cried a lot. I shed a lot of tears. Reading the stories and how some of our people were treated. You know, they were treated like animals. And to watch what was going on in Standing Rock, they were getting treated the same way. They were getting treated like they weren't human. And I felt a lot of that anger again. And I started to really pray hard. I had to pray hard to get to get beyond that, you know. And I used to, you know, where I grew up, it was on a hill, and right across the street, on our hill, we had no electricity, no running water, none of that good stuff. But you go across the street, you walk down the street, and I was 10 years old. Again, I could relate to that. I looked in the windows, and I'm sorry to say, but we call you Washichu, but it's the way people, homes, they had electricity, they had heat. I see these families sitting around tables eating, you know, and again I asked that question, what is the matter with me? And with alcoholism it was even worse. You know, so I proceeded to become a drunk, you know, because I didn't know how to deal with these feelings that I was going through. I didn't want to be Indian. I wanted to be something else. I wanted all those things that I seen down those streets. And when I got sober, I realized, after writing everything down, I realized that I was a very rich person. I looked at what my grandmother taught me, what my mom taught me. Regardless of the drinking, I was taught some culture. I was taught some ways. We had ceremonies in those days. They were hidden, but my parents and grandparents had ceremonies. And we couldn't practice, in those days they couldn't practice their religion out in the open. Just as early as 1978, when I got sober, is when they gave us the right to do this right here that is going on. You know, and so I know my ancestors, my relatives before me, they struggled. What I had to go through was a very small struggle, you know, but I still struggled. And so with that, I want to say, you know, I'm really proud to say that I really do feel love for everybody. And I'm proud to be Native American. You know, I'm proud I brought my grandchildren up to be proud of who they are. They know these circles, they know they belong here. And I have 30 grandchildren. And that's who I'm doing this for. This is who I'm doing it for. You know, and so, you know, with Standing Rock ending, it was only a beginning for all of us. It was a beginning for us. You know, it didn't stop. It lit a fire in all of us. And we have to stick together, we have to unite, we have to be in prayer. We have to love one another in order to fight that black snake. You know. So with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you all for being here. Your relatives come.